Well, welcome everybody. My name is Julie Avery, and I want to welcome you to the North Central Regional Center for Rural Development's Heritage Tourism Series. This has been a series of 7 webinars altogether to debut and kick off our Heritage Tourism web resources. Our web has just gone public as of yesterday, and just below the main slide on your screen is the uh, URL for that, and we invite you all to check it out, and we would appreciate any comment or any critique at all. The webinars have all been recorded, and they are archived at the North Central site. And so if you go onto the North Central Regional Center for Rural Development's website and click on their webinar tab, there is a heritage tourism page, and all of our webinars are there. This one will be posted perhaps tomorrow. And then before the next one, which is November 15th, on evaluating and renewing, the PowerPoint for that upcoming one will be posted. Today, our program is going to focus on initiating heritage tourism. And I think you can see that the presenters will have mics, and the audience, we would appreciate your comments and questions in the chat box. We've planned to have about half of our program be presented by Jonathan Day, Dr. Jonathan Day from Purdue, and leave time for questions and comments and critique. We wanted to start with this because the heritage tourism resources that we have developed are in large part a process of engaging community. And our team, which is 7 individuals from 5 different states, have come together over the last 2 years to gather and organize and have great conversations around heritage tourism. And we ended up having a lot of conversation about vocabulary, and what you see on the screen is where we have come down to. Heritage tourism encompasses elements of living culture, history, and natural history of place that communities value and steward for the future. The stewardship and preservation for the future are critical elements. These characteristics are very specific to community or region and can contribute to pride, stability, growth, and economic development. And we feel strongly that the role of heritage and culture are especially critical in rural communities. Today's presentation on implementing heritage tourism tips for going to market is going to be presented to you by Jonathan Day. Dr. Day is part of our team of 7, and John is an assistant professor in Purdue School of Hospitality and Tourism Management. He has over 20 years of experience in destination management and governance. And John brings an international flavor to our team because he's from Australia. He's award-winning marketer, experienced with destination marketing organizations in Australia, in New Zealand, and in the United States. John has a Bachelor of Business from Queensland University of Technology and an MBA from UCLA's Anderson Graduate School of Management and a PhD from James Cook University in Australia. John's research interests focus on strategic destination management, including issues of sustainability and competitiveness within the tourism industry. So, John, I'll turn it over to you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. My goodness, that's a mouthful of introduction there. Just want to check, can everyone hear me okay? If you're having any trouble hearing me at all, please put a little note in the chat box. And Liz, I can see you typing. Is the sound okay? You can hear me fine. Terrific. Well, thank you for joining us today. This is a topic that I think is extremely important, and I come at it from 2 directions, and both directions have led me here. One is in my life till this point, I have been involved with working with tourism product, helping them to come to market and be successful at promoting their products and services. And so this 6th topic that we're doing today that looks at the implementation, or as I would like to say, sort of going to market issues, is I think extremely important. And I'm hoping that there'll be a couple of nuggets today that you'll find interesting. The other part of this is that from so much conversation comes around this notion of sustainability these days, and one of the things about tourism is that many times people look at tourism and they say, well, it's not improving the quality of life in my area. And I believe, and the definition that we've found for heritage tourism there that Julie just shared with you, I believe that we can actually improve the quality of life in our communities, celebrate our culture and our heritage through this type of tourist activity. And to me, that's very important uh, that we can preserve and celebrate who we are and what is special about the places that we come from. And I look at the list of people who are involved in today's conversation, and my gosh, we're from all over the Midwest. It's just extraordinary the number of states that are on this call right now. Each of you, I know, have got something special that you want to be sharing with potential travelers. So today, what we'll be doing is looking at a couple of, as I said, a couple of nuggets here. I want to talk to you about the two perspectives of product and services. We're going to spend a little bit of time on experiences. We'll talk a little bit about going to market. We're going to talk about the tips of making change happen and the sorts of things that you're going to need to be remembering as you go to market um, to ensure that you have success over the long period. And then I really just wanted to leave with a couple of thoughts about experimentation and innovation. Tourism's a funny thing, and we'll talk about how tourism can be a wonderful place for experimentation and innovation. There are a couple of big ideas we're going to talk about today as well, and one of those is going to be experiences, and the other is about bundling. And hopefully, out of this conversation, get a couple of ideas that will help you as you come to market. Okay, so I think probably the first and most important point here um, is this notion of the two perspectives that we have of heritage tourism products. When I work with tourism products and work in tourism in the industry, um, I'm always amazed at how in love we are with our own products. And there's a real, there's some sense to that. We're very familiar with it. We have our hotels that we've worked hard to get, that investment to happen that we're very proud of. We have infrastructure. We're just talking about a winery that has just been opened, and we know how much that cost, and all of the things associated with that. And we tend to think about it in terms of our attributes, the product attributes that we have. Now that's fine, but it's the opposite of what we need to be thinking about if we want to attract visitors. Um, no one has ever been encouraged to go to a destination because they're contributing to the economic development of the community. Why are they going? They're going there for a set of benefits. Um, they're going there because by going there, they're going to have fun, or they're going to be able to share time with their family, or they're going to be able to see something unique and different. Um, Quite often, we get, when we're using our perspective, when we're using a product perspective, we get tied up in the collections that we have, the museum pieces we have, and we forget the visitor's perspective is one of, oh, I want to learn about what life was like there. It's not about the collection per se. It's about the experience of learning and seeing some of these experiences and feeling some of these experiences. So, one of the big challenges for anyone who wants to market tourism is to find a way to communicate the experience of your destination in a way that's meaningful to your consumer. Sure, you're going to have those economic goals and objectives, but and you've got wonderful product, but at the end of the day, it's the experiences that you have to find a way to communicate. Let me give you an example. Quite often, a hotelier will talk about how, and I've done many hotel hotel inspections through my life. And if there's any hoteliers on the call today, please forgive me uh, if I'm getting this wrong. But quite often, a hotel inspection will involve looking at the bed, looking at the bathroom. Um, Quite often, we talk about how wonderful the sheets are, the count of the thread, blah blah blah, right? Um, they'll look at the lobby or the restaurant or whatever, and quite often the conversation is never about where the hotel is. What benefits I get from staying there. It's close to downtown or it's close to a historic district that I can walk to easily. Stepping back and getting that elevator perspective or that helicopter perspective of the destination and recognizing that the benefit is a broader thing can be really an important thing. So one of the things that I encourage you to do as you get ready to talk to consumers and people who are going to be selling your destination is stop and to really think about what is the experience of this destination and to hold back from talking about the attributes that you're proud of, but rather the experiences that they're question you might ask you is if I were here and I was riding home to mum, what would I say? How would I describe this experience? It's almost never about the attributes of the place. It's always about the experience. So, as I said, experience is one of the big ideas. It's an important idea in tourism at the moment. And perhaps you've heard about this notion of the experience economy. Um, One of the things that two authors that about 10 years ago came up with the idea of Joseph Pine and Gilmore came up with this idea that as we move from a society that is focused on products to a society that is focused on services, um, we, we find that we add value. But if you move beyond just plain services and think about experiences, then that's where you can really make some money. And you can make an impact as well. I know some of you you know, are involved in heritage tourism to share your heritage as well as for the economic development takes place. So let's think about this experience economy and what I'm talking about here. Coffee is a great example. Coffee, if I buy a bean, it's less than $1 a pound wholesale. It's a couple of cents a cup. There's almost, it's a commodity basically. But if I do a little bit of processing of it, I got that beautiful Nescafe coffee there, it increases the value a little bit and there's some processing happens and I can make a little bit of money out of that. Here at Purdue University, beautiful Purdue University in West Lafayette, Indiana, we have a brand new building, but up until last year we had the beautiful HTM Cafe. And HTM Cafe was like many diners where you could pick up just a regular cup of joe. I could pay $1.65 for 16 ounces. There was no experience involved with it at all. I just literally went to the dispenser, knocked it out, and it was cheap and good. Now, if I think about Starbucks is starting to get to the idea of the experience economy. You know, if you know anything about Howard Schultz, he started Starbucks as the notion of the third place. We have coffee when we go to work, we have coffee in the morning at home, and he wanted to create an environment where it was comfortable to go and be the third place other than home and work where you would have a cup of coffee. Um, Now, I like Starbucks a lot. I love the feel of going into the place. I like the cup. I like the cup in my hand. And right at the moment, I'm paying about $4.50. So 3 times more than I would pay for the cup of Joe at the other place if I go to Starbucks. And it's partly the experience that I'm paying for. Now, if you're interested in coffee, let me tell you about heritage tourism, right? So I go to the Cafe Florian, and it's there right at St. Mark's Square in Venice, Italy. Um, Beautiful location. I go there. What happens? I buy a cup of coffee. I'm part of the cafe experience, you know, the tradition of going to Europe and drinking coffee. And what am I doing? I'm paying $15 a cup for it. To the experience, you know, of being in that place and enjoying that activity and being part of it. But beyond that, if you think about it, I've paid not only $15 for the cup of coffee, but I've paid for the airfare and the hotel. So I've literally paid $1,000, a couple of $1,000 for the experience. Because what we're trying to do is we're trying to create something that people will leave their homes for, that they'll come out on a cold afternoon or at a time when they're busy and really be prepared to enjoy. And so it's not enough for us to talk about, you know, a cup of coffee. It's really important for us to talk about the heritage experience that they're going to be having when you go to market. Another idea. Um, Well, before I go past that idea, you know, we're seeing some of the big commercial organizations, and you know, it's always good to see what the big guys are doing because often we can take interesting ideas and apply them to our own areas. But you know, when I think about Disney, I think about the experience. You know, the little girls going along and wanting to be a Disney princess when they have their wedding. I think about what I pay, you know, the notion of shark diving. Shark diving is not at all about the cage. That is about the adrenaline of the experience. Um, you know, the notion of the experience of going to space. We're literally paying $300,000-$400,000 for that unique experience. And then, you know, also tied to this notion, unique experiences that I can charge a little bit more for. The very best meal that I ever had was a chef's kitchen. And so what that was and I was at a resort at the time, but they took me aside. It wasn't in the regular restaurant. They took me into the back. They gave me a special table in the kitchen itself. The chef created the meal in front of me. The uh, the um, the wine expert paired the wine with the meal. And what they did was they created something that I will remember forever out of something that was very commonplace to them. I encourage you to think about as you're thinking about your heritage products. How can you create something that is really special? Perhaps you'll charge a premium for it, but it's something really special. um, that people would pay something a little bit extra for because it will give them something that they could write home to mum about, that they could talk about, that they could, in their conversations, brag a little bit about. Okay. So, as I said, the first idea here is to really think about what is the experience as you go to market and look at ways that you can communicate that. The second idea is, and we'll come back to this in the discussion thing, but I really start thinking about this. What is your heritage tourism experience? And how would you present that to someone? The next one is this idea of bundling. And this is from your perspective. You know, in tourism, there's a whole lot of terms that, all relate to bringing products together. Sometimes it's a little bit confusing. We talk about packaging, we talk about clustering, we talk about all of these sort of jargon terms. But what I wanted to sort of share with you is that, and I noticed that you're from all different types of companies, this idea of partnering together, to collaborating together. Um, One of the things about tourism that's really important to remember is that almost never a single product makes it worthwhile me getting off the couch. Almost always in tourism, it really requires a number of different products to create that experience that I'm talking about. And so finding ways to work together in partnership is really an important way of coming to market. It creates benefit not only for the consumer who is looking for things to do, but it also gives you as a working group the ability to partner, to share costs, and to create something that is worthwhile talking about. One of the challenges you've got as you go to market is to get people's attention. Whether that's the journalist who is going to write about you or the consumer who is going to be thinking about participating in your tourism product, the challenge really is. We were talking a minute ago, about a single product, a winery or whatever. For many of you, heritage tourists are drive tourists. And so our biggest competitor is the couch on a Sunday afternoon. What is going to make me move off that couch to go out and have a set of experiences, a set of heritage experiences? And I would suggest to you, by bundling, by working together, you actually create a far more compelling reason. Sometimes this means thinking outside of the box. You all come from specific destinations, but maybe it means thinking about, who else is down the road. And what we're seeing with bundling at the moment is that trails are the new fad in the marketplace. Everyone's creating a trail of products that work together to compete um, for competition against the sofa. As you think about this, a lot of people ask me, well, who creates these bundles? And the answer is that they can come together in whatever fashion you want. So if it's a group of wineries getting together or a group of art galleries getting together, with no leader per se, but a group of organizations working together, that works. If it's your destination marketing organization, your convention and visitors bureau, pulling together an idea and encouraging people, that works. If it's someone from the outside who sees an opportunity and brings it together and gathers you around, that works as well. It really is just the notion that in tourism, working in partnership is so critical. Okay, if if bundling is one of the big ideas, then some things to think about when you actually go to market. encouragement to you is to spend time not so much focused on the product that you have, but on the consumers that are coming, and get the low-hanging fruit. So few times do people actually ask the people who are who are their visitors what they like about their place. Where did they come from? Understand your current market really well so that you can build and grow from it. Your strength is going to come from a core of people that look like your current visitors. And so build around that. And then the other thing that I really encourage you is not to overlook what I would call low hanging fruit. And the low hanging fruit are the people that can help you get to market that if you're not from this industry or you're not that you're just overlooking. So what's low hanging fruit? Well, one would be, are you working with your DMO? It's a little concerning to me that of the folks that are uh, on this group, I think I've only got one destination marketing organization. Dean, are you from North Dakota Tourism Board? One thing that I would encourage you to do, work with your state tourist board, work with your local convention and visitors bureau. Um, you may not see, yeah, yeah. So work with these folks who have access to markets that perhaps you don't. Utilize the resources that are out there that you can tap in. Don't feel that you need to create everything from the ground up. Other low-hanging fruit. The web is really a place um, uh, that people are going to seek you out. And so, if you don't have a web strategy, the first best dollar spent is going to be putting that in place, buying some search words, and perhaps getting a contractor or someone who can help you get your presence out on the web. So, as you come to market, make sure that you're looking for the opportunities that are right in front of you, and use those as you start to develop your business. But one of the themes of this conversation is really, it's so enticing and it's so seductive to be tied up in the notion of if we build it, they'll come. And everything that we've been talking about to this point has been, no, let's think about it from the consumer's point of view as opposed to our own perspective. I've been, as anyone who's ever been my student would know, I have a tendency to sort of go on here a little bit. There's two other things that I wanted to talk to you about today. One is, as you go into this, you're creating a change in the marketplace, in the way that you do things. And I wanted to share a little bit from John Cotter there about leading change. I don't think I need to go through everything, but I do want to point out a couple of things. One is working together, the bundling, the building of a coalition is really important. It will be hard for you to lead if there's no one there with you running the ball down the towards the goal. The other thing that I really want to encourage you is to think about is your communication. When you go to market, you'll start thinking about how you can communicate with your visitors, your potential consumers, the people who are going to enjoy your destination. Don't underestimate how much time and effort needs to be put into communicating with your own team, with communicating with your own community, making sure that they are aware of the products and the experiences that you're giving to visitors. Communication is one of those things that you can never do too much of. And so, keep in mind that you've got these two groups, the consumers that you're seeking and the folks that are in the community that you're actually impacting. As you go to market, make sure that you share your short-term wins with everyone involved. If you have a little victory, make sure that you celebrate it. Um, this is a long-term activity. I think that some of the other folks in the presentations have talked about um, how this is something that you're going to be um, engaged with over many, many years as you develop and grow your heritage tourism. So make sure that you take that long-term view and you keep stoking the fire. Um, in the absence of information, it's been my experience that people think the worst. And so making sure that you keep telling the story of the successes that you've had is really important to a long-term marketing strategy or business strategy associated with tourism and with heritage tourism. And then I guess finally, the last thing that I wanted to share was, experimentation. One of the nice things about tourism is that tourism, I can create a product pretty quickly. All I have to do, I don't have to contract with people. I don't have to create anything. I just need to be able to look at a set of resources that I have and put them together. I might do that in a press release, tying together a set of experiences that create a good afternoon or a good day or a good weekend of tourism experiences. And so I have a great degree of freedom, particularly if I know what's at the core of the product that I want to be presenting, to experiment and see what people are interested in and what might resonate with them. So I really encourage you, experiment with this. Feel comfortable, particularly if you have a core of a product that you want, to try new things and see how the marketplace responds to it. I also really want to encourage you, experimentation, innovation comes when people stop saying but and start saying and. Quite often as we get our groups together to talk about, what heritage tourism should be or how we can develop this destination for tourism, we come up with buts. Well, that's a great idea, but we haven't done that in the past, or but it didn't work. Find ways to use the word and in your innovation, so that you can build um, on a base and give everyone the freedom to try and find their place in the heritage tourism framework that you're developing. I've covered a lot here today. We talked about coming to market. We talked about the importance of having a consumer perspective. We spent a little bit of time talking about the importance of experience and how experience is what drives a lot of the extra economic benefit that companies and individuals can receive from tourism and heritage. We covered a little bit about the importance of managing the change process, the competition from the sofa, how it's important to work in partnership as you come to market, as you're implementing your programs. And then, of course, we finally talked about experimentation and innovation. The best thing that I could do right now is to shut up and answer any questions or discuss anything that you might have. So I hope that there's a couple of nuggets of ideas there that I've been able to share, and if anyone has any questions, I would love to take them at this point.
Jonathan, this is Julie. If I may jump in.
You absolutely may.
Okay, while people might be making notes for us, one of the things that's so critical in this kind of work is partnering, and I'm glad you focused a lot on that. And partnering and collaborations are really a different ballgame because you lose your power. And in order to have good collaborations and good partnerships, it's very critical to have respect and strong two-way communication. And generate and create what you want to do together. And that means that I might have 3 or 4 great ideas and Jonathan might think one of them is terrible, and we both have to be open to reshaping where that overlap in the middle of us might be. So I just wanted to throw that out to everybody too.
Yeah, and
What are
no, I was going to say, and one of the mistakes we make is that we feel that we have to answer all of our own problems. Um, what I would really encourage you is to step outside of your own community and talk to the people who are selling you, who are presenting this sort of information. What does the journalist from the local from the newspaper in the city that you're trying to generate your consumers, what do they have to say? What do travel providers, the National Tourism Association, who potentially, what are they doing? So don't feel as though we have to find all of our answers within our community. Be open to partnering and collaborating, and talking to people beyond your own little patch of the world. So, are there any questions that anyone has?
Ambrose has asked what state agencies do that would be of most value to regional tourism groups. And then Liz has a comment. Jonathan?
Okay, so the question to Anna Rose is that it depends. I've got my friend here, or the colleague from North Dakota, and I would expect they have a set of tools and benefits that they're going to have for regions. Um, Different states are going to have different things. What you should expect from your state tourist office, but is uh, some ability to promote or highlight the things that you're doing on their website. Some ability to engage with them in the promotional materials that they're producing. In most cases, or in some cases, the state tourist office has greater resources and greater ability to be able to reach out to the consumers that you're trying to attract. Um, Another thing that you should be able to do is, and I'm a great advocate of this, is that your state tourist office should be able to give you good advice, right? They should have um, a good idea about the consumers that are coming into your state or into your region, and you should be able to, and I really encourage you to talk to the experts at your state tourist office and ask them about the market in general, so that as you develop your plans, you don't have to either one, fly blind, or two, um, do it all yourself. And when I talk about regional offices, I'm talking about state offices here. Um, what do we got there? I'm just trying to track along with this. Regional offices. Yeah. So different places, the answer to the question is different places are going to have different levels of skill at working with their local people, but always, and as I said, the 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 CVBs, one of the people in the community that are paid to be the experts in these markets, are the CVBs, and you're gonna I'm going to really encourage you to work with them and talk to them about how you can um, go to market and be mutually supportive of each other.
John, Liz has a big question. She wants to know tell us stories. What was a big success and what was a big failure, and what were the maybe unusual things that you learned from those? You had a lot of experience before you came to academia.
I did. And the biggest success and the biggest failure. Um, I could give you two examples of the same type of activity, and one was a huge success and one was a huge failure. And they were both trails. One was a trail that we were promoting in rainforest area of northern Queensland, where the Great Barrier Reef is, and it was a set of activities that fit together really nicely. And from a consumer's point of view, they could take a 2-day trail and really have the best of the reef and the rainforest, and stay in rustic rainforest cabins, and wonderful, wonderful experiences. And huge success, and partly because of the intensity of the experience. I didn't have to travel very far to make it happen. One of the biggest failures was a similar sort of thing that I did in another part of the state, um, and the experience was very much the same, but the level of engagement, the energy that the partners put into it, and the distances between the two things meant that between the various products meant that it was just a little bit more inconvenient for consumers, and there just wasn't the spark or the fire behind the people who were behind it. They really sort of looked at it as being somewhat secondary to what they were doing, and so it was no one's highest priority. And when something like this is no one's highest priority, it's no one's priority. And so what it means, what I would take from that is that there's no such thing as a good idea or a bad idea. Really, it's about the implementation and about the energy that's put into it. I think that there are cases where, and 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 truly, whether you've got a good consumer focus on it, understand what the consumer is after. The second example, they needed to have just a little bit more experience in what they were doing. But the success factor was about who was you know who was engaged, who was part of the team, and who was prepared to put energy into it. I think that there are some other things out there. We've been talking about the DMOs. It's one thing to know too that the Destination Marketing Association International, which is the national DMO organization, has got some great resources for heritage tourism. They work really closely with Americans for the Arts, so they have the language of heritage tourism. There are other organizations out there at the moment that are out there, and one of the things that I would say, and I see this all the time, is everyone feels like they're alone. That they have to reinvent the wheel. And that's one of the reasons why I'm so committed to this group here. What I see is this incredible duplication of effort that's going out there, and there are just so many folks who are reinventing the wheel and doing a great job doing it. But some of this effort, they could pick up from other folks who have been there, and so the work that we're doing here, we're trying to share best practices. We've got a LinkedIn group that I'm going to, actually I'll put the slide up there now, that we've got. And so, my encouragement is don't feel like you're alone. Don't feel like, there's no one that you can ask. There's so many resources out there. It's just a matter of finding people to connect with. And this is one of the benefits that we have from this group here, and hopefully just starting with this process here on the webinars, the 7 webinars we're doing.
Oops. Rosa, if you're listening, you need to help me because... Oh, I see what happened. Ta-da! Liz, we've had a couple people on different webinars who have mentioned this work with First Nations tourism in Canada, and we've also had some people on our webinars who are working with our Indigenous communities and their interest in telling their own story. If anyone knows of some good examples or some native tribal groups that are doing their own work, please add it in the chat box or go to our website and send us a note, and we'll add that information to our website. I know here in Michigan, the Zibowing Museum in Mount Pleasant is just an amazing museum that the tribal group in central Michigan took it upon themselves to do because they did not like how the outsiders were telling their story. Wonderful place to go visit. Oh, they don't work?
Yeah. I really would encourage you to as you develop this sort of thing, think about...
Try this. There you go.
Is that better?
I think it's working now.
Okay.
Thanks.
So I was going to say that one of the ways to really understand your product is to think about how it would be presented if it was a magazine article. If you were reading it, how would it be presented? How would you what would be the things that would be newsworthy or interesting? And there's always a really big difference between what I want to tell someone else and what they're interested in to hear about. And the real challenge for a marketer is to change my mindset, to get away from the things that I want to tell you and to focus in on the things you want to hear, and then into that message put the things that I want to tell you. Make the medicine go down a little bit sweeter, so to speak. And that is the challenge. Okay. Just watching there to see if there are any last questions. There's a lot of information there just being shared. Culture and heritage tourism, one of the things that you're going to find, and I know Julie shared a definition, but one of the challenges of defining heritage tourism is that so much of the authentic travel that people want to experience, the getting back to real America, the experiences that we have in the Midwest, they all can fit under the umbrella of heritage tourism in many, many different ways. And so, you may find that some of the mainstream tourism activities that are happening out there really would be defined as heritage tourism and provide you with an opportunity to get involved.
We're all starting to see the results of our little survey, and thank you very much for contributing to that. I would especially like to hear from the individual who has doubts about the information presented in a very confidential way. I'd be delighted ERYJ, I'll put it in the note, at msu.edu. Well, if there are no more comments or questions, both Jonathan and I want to thank you very much for joining us. We really appreciated your time, and please check out our website. We have one more webinar coming up, and that is the 15th of November at 2 o'clock. Again, this webinar will be posted. Feel free to pass them around and share them with people, as well as our new Heritage Tourism website. If you would like an announcement, we have a little interactive like postcard. If you send me an email, I will get it to you, and you can, if you have networks that you would feel comfortable sharing it with, we would really appreciate that. So, Jonathan, any last words?
No, but I just encourage you as you take these products to market to work and partner with as many people as you possibly can. And I really wish you every success in the work that you're doing. This is what's making tourism so much more meaningful to people. The visitor really enjoys. We know that the visitor really enjoys these heritage products, and the efforts that you make to bring them to market are so important.
I think a lot of us are seeing our weather get much better and are having good thoughts and prayers and concerns for our friends and our folks on the East Coast. So thank you all again. Have a great weekend. Thanks, Jonathan.